All right, awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited about today's session. I have a couple of slides I'm going to pull up to begin with, and then perfect. Awesome. So we've had a couple of these webinars now that we've been doing leading up to our Gen AI Bootcamp course. And a question that we keep getting repeatedly asked is, can I actually launch a startup with this method and start making money? And that's why I'm super excited to have Sabrina on here today. Sabrina's a current solo founder of Blotato, and she's from building the product to customer support to the marketing. She handles all of it herself. And she's grown an audience from 0 to 500K in just 6 months, teaching people AI and also sharing her experiences with building her own product using AI. And she was also previously a founder at another AI startup called Aquarius, which had a successful acquisition. And best of all, she's a fellow bear. Yeah, I'm not sure how you even have the time to sleep with all that you do, but super grateful for having you on here today. Yeah, we're going to ask a lot of questions about launching solo using AI, and I'm going to be leading the conversation, but everybody in the chat, feel free to pitch in and we'll try to get some of your questions as well. And if we don't, we'll have 10 minutes at the end for a dedicated time to do Q&A. And yeah, Sabrina, did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to tell yourself about yourself?
No, that sounds good. Yeah, super excited to be here. So thanks for reaching out. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here. So first of all, I want to ask you, your product is called Blotato.com. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what the product is?
Yeah, sure. So I built it for myself to help me scale my AI education content. So a couple months into content creation, and I was trying to spin up on all of these platforms, and it was just overwhelming, honestly. Like as a solo person without a team to create content on a regular basis that is high quality, accurate, and then distribute it across all the social channels and never miss a day. And it's overwhelming. And I kept hearing that from other people too. So I first built a solution for myself. Like it literally allowed me to take one of my YouTube tutorials, repurpose it for my newsletter, repurpose it for LinkedIn, for Twitter, for Threads, for Blue Sky, for a TikTok video script, like super, super quickly with AI that's trained on viral content as well as your brand voice. And so that's what it enables people to do. Most of our users are creators who are either building a personal brand, a business brand, or faceless channels. And they're looking for ways to scale up their content creation without having to hire like a big team, which is the traditional approach, ways to use AI and automation to be able to like scale content creation in a smarter way.
That's awesome. And so this is your second startup, or this was the startup you did after like Query, correct? Which you had
Yeah, so the first one is called Curious, and that was also an AI startup. So we did real-time speech recognition or online speech recognition and natural language processing for sales and customer support. So literally we built this technology that could dial into a call such as this one, transcribe what people are saying in real time, even if there's multiple parties. We did diarization to figure out who's speaking, and then we use natural language processing to figure out like what keywords are coming up, what questions are you asking, and then suggested what to say next. So our main use case was sales and customer support, where imagine like someone calling in, like trying to figure out something with their bank or credit card, and our AI is like listening in real time and then guides the agent for like what to say next to resolve your issue. And then, yeah, we successfully sold that company. I was CEO. My co-founder, CTO, is also my husband, who I met at Berkeley in a Hillfinger computer science class, for those of you who know who that is.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that was our first company. And I swore after that company I would never do a startup again because I was so burnt out. But Blotato just happened very organically. And I think that's what I love about it and why I'm still doing it. It's just a very natural problem for me to solve. As a creator, I face this problem every single day.
So you weren't going after looking another startup to launch. It was more a personal problem that you were like, let me build a solution for, and it turned into another startup that you're in.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because I was showing people how to do it too. So in a sense, I had solved it by duct taping a bunch of AI workflow automations together, and then I made YouTube tutorials showing, hey, here's how you can do this too. But people kept asking me like, is there a simpler way to do this? Because I'm not into automation. A lot of busy business owners don't want to sit there fiddle around with like workflow automations. If you're technical, that's cool, that's fun. But for many other people, that's not an enjoyable thing. So people kept asking me, how do I do what you're doing, but without having to like set up my own automations and maintain them and stuff. And so I was like, oh, light bulb moment. I should build a SaaS app that makes this really easy for people to do.
That's awesome. I think a lot of the best startup ideas come from like a personal need that
Yeah.
somebody had. When you had the idea, how did you go about, like, what did the first version of Blotato look like? How did you get
Mhm.
that launched? Yeah, what was your MVP?
Honestly, it was really embarrassing, and it was 100% built with AI. And I filmed myself building it because I knew people would just not believe me afterwards. Like it takes time to make a product good. But the very first version basically took a news article, ran it through some ChatGPT prompts, and spit out a LinkedIn post and a Twitter post and a Facebook post. And that was it. Like you couldn't schedule, you couldn't like actually publish anything to the platforms. You could kind of customize the prompts, but you couldn't upload different kinds of sources like YouTube videos, TikTok videos, that kind of thing. It was just news article, ChatGPT prompt, and then some text-based post. That was the first version.
That's awesome. Were you able to gather users with the
Oh yeah.
first version that you had? And like, how long did it take you to go from I built my app to I have my like first 10 users?
Oh, at 10, I don't probably like 30 minutes. I don't know. Well, that's kind of the beauty of having an audience. And I think a lot of like tech people do worry about what if I build something? How do I get users? Because I used to have those exact same concerns and fears. And it was like such a black box to me. But the beautiful thing is when you're a creator or you partner with someone who has an existing audience or distribution, again, it doesn't have to be like TikTok creator. You could partner with someone who has a lot of network and influence in, let's say, the HR industry. Like that could be unique access to distribution. But for me, like I just put out a TikTok video and then I just watched hundreds of people sign up and that was it. And honestly, way easier than my first startup. So my first startup, we had like an outbound sales team. We were doing cold emails, cold calls, outreach on LinkedIn, like multi-touch points, leaving voicemails. And that was really tough to do that cold without any kind of brand, without any kind of existing audience.
That's awesome. When your first 100 users rolled in,
Yeah.
or after you put out that first post, did you run into any like major bugs on your platform,
Yeah.
any major security issues, things like that? And how'd you go about fixing it? Because a lot of people are saying like, I don't have the most coding experience. If I build
Yeah.
this with AI, then these problems come up. What do I do?
I would say, first of all, it's a very good thing to have those problems because it means you have users. When you don't have users, you don't find the bugs. Like you just test it in that one way, you know how to test it, and that's it. But when you have users, they bring out all of the things that are broken in your platform. So I would say number one, you're lucky to be in that position. And honestly, the most important thing you can do is just be transparent with users and just be like, oh, that is a bug. Hang on, I'm gonna fix it. And one kind of hack I have in my platform is I have a credit system for like AI video and image generation. And so whenever I mess up, if somebody finds a bug, I just say, I'm so sorry. Here's 1,000 credits. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And people love that. And I love it too, because it takes a little bit of that pressure off because I still have lots and lots of bugs like every single week.
Yeah.
It never stops. It really, like, that's just the nature of building like a really high quality product. You're going to be pushing the boundaries. It's not exactly going to fit with some other things you built. Some things will fall through. You're going to have bugs. It's very normal. Yeah.
That's awesome. A lot of our students are looking to build and they have very limited like technical backgrounds
Mm.
and they're using these tools to launch. In your experience, like I guess what percentage of your code do you think you're generating with AI, and where are you stepping in? And for those non-technical founders, do you think it is possible to get out an MVP that's like good enough to test without having any prior code experience?
I would say yes, but you have to be willing to learn what you're doing. There's a big difference between like, oh, I'm just gonna tell it to do stuff, and it's just gonna do stuff, and you're just gonna blindly hit accept on all of the changes all of the time. That's very different from being engaged in the process of like, for example, now we have the thinking models. You can like read step by step what it's trying to do. While you're waiting, you can ask ChatGPT O3 Mini or some other LLM, what do you think? Is this the right approach? I do that all the time. I'll use Claude 3.7 Sonnet within Cursor or Windsurf, and then while I'm waiting for it to finish thinking, I'll go ask O3 Mini, like, is this the right approach? Is there a better approach? And so I would caveat, yes, someone with zero technical background today can absolutely build an MVP, but you're gonna be way more successful if you just actually engage with the process and not fear like the code. Just think of it as reading. And yeah, a lot of it's going to be confusing at first, but over time, like you'll notice the same things pop up. Like, oh, I wanted to implement this thing without changing the UI. So you learn to like prompt that kind of way. So yeah, I think it's possible, but it also changes over time the extent to you use AI. So I filmed myself 100% AI coding it, but over time, AI is coding like a smaller and smaller percentage of the code base. It's more of like a co-pilot is really the right description for it now, where I'm thinking of implementing this feature. Like, how should I structure it? Okay, if I do this, what other changes are required in the code base? And it's a lot of that back and forth interaction, and then me ultimately making the decision of like, okay, here's how I'm going to implement it. I'm okay with these trade-offs, and then let's walk through it step by step. So today it's definitely not 100% AI coding. I'm very much like directing the process.
Okay, got it. I see. And then in the chat, we have a couple of questions coming
Oh.
in, which are kind of fun. I'll go ahead and ask. How did you pick the name Blotato?
Oh, hey Elliot, what's up? Yeah. So I have been wanting to call something Blotato for years. So I've had blotato.com for years. When my husband and I briefly lived in Florida, we love visiting the manatees. That's like the state animal in Florida, and they're in the rivers and stuff. And a nickname for them is like floating potato. It's like an endearing nickname, floating potato. Flotato.com was actually taken. So I went with the next best alternative that made me laugh, which was Blotato. And that's it. Yeah, I've been wanting to call something Blotato for years now. So
That's awesome. And then you talked about you have like a big audience. So when you made your product, it was ready to launch out there. How much of your time do you think you spend like on the marketing side of things and
mm,
building an audience, and how much do you spend actually building your product? And like, what's your recommendation to somebody who's just looking to get started? Should they go make TikToks right now or
mm.
go build their product first?
Well, I honestly advise people to shortcut the whole process by partnering with someone who already has an audience and has spent months or years building up that trust, because it's not easy to shortcut that. Just because you get views on videos doesn't mean you're necessarily like building credibility and authority within a specific niche. So what I literally advise to people, if you're technical, go partner with an influencer. If you're an influencer, go partner with someone technical so you don't stress out about how to build the product and like you're completely out of your comfort zone and you don't even want to do it. And so that's my general advice for people. It's a match made in heaven, because like as you have a stream of users coming in, then product has feedback to actually improve the product and iterate towards product market fit. Because what you don't want to happen is like you launch it, you don't know how to get users, and it's like a trickle of users coming in. It's not quite the feedback engine you need to like keep improving the product week after week. And like every week you're just like, how do we get how you're like begging people to use your product, and like you don't want that to happen. So I really recommend people to just partner with someone who already has authority, domain authority, trusts, expertise, and you're going to shortcut so many of the like early stage pain points of like going from zero to your first meaningful revenue milestone.
As a solo founder doing both, how
Hmm.
much of your day goes into one versus the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say like mid-February to end of March, I was doing a lot more marketing, like probably 70% marketing, 30% product. And I'm trying to reverse that now. Now that I've gotten like a better sense of what marketing works, now I'm like, okay, I just need to like scale those things instead of trying to do everything. So now I'm trying to do 70% product, 30% marketing. And then I still create educational content 2 days a week. So a lot of people are surprised, like, given that I put out so many pieces of content. I only actually create content 2 days a week, and then the rest of my time is spent supporting Blotato, maintaining it, building existing features, etc.
Got it. Got it. That's awesome. And you said you would recommend for people to partner with a creator. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any ways that you recommend people going about that? I know like a lot of people don't have funding. Would you recommend they try to raise funding and then bring somebody on board, maybe give equity, just any advice around how
Yeah.
you go? But if somebody's reaching out to you, maybe to like try to partner, what do you think is the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I do get a lot of messages for partnerships. The ones that stand out are obviously people who have already built something or have already succeeded in some way, like some kind of track record that shows that like you're pretty serious and you can get it done. And it goes both ways, right? Like that's why you're trying to partner with an influencer because they have a track record and they have a community built. So yeah, I would just think of it in that way. Like if someone came to you, like what would appeal to you? Like track record, they do what they say they're going to do, like simple things like you guys agree to meet and they show up on time, they respect your time, like all things like that. I don't think you need funding though, because like if you were to partner with an influencer that has a meaningful audience, like you could succeed totally bootstrapped, like 100%. I know now so many startups that have that kind of model, and the revenue growth, like you just get past ramen profitable very, very quickly because you have that initial influencers audience. But you should expect though to outgrow that influencers audience over time, right? Like your product going to be maturing. You're going to be working with other influencers, other partners in marketing, and like you're going to expand way beyond the scope of that initial influencers community. And so when you think about like equity or profit share, revenue share, however you want to do it, just keep that in mind. That like the influencer is going to be super useful in the beginning stage, probably like the first 2 years as you're ramping up revenue and trying to get to product market fit. Beyond that, you're going to scale past the influencer. But the reason why the model is so appealing to an influencer is because now if you imagine the influencer point of view, you're creating content all of the time. It's like a never ending hamster wheel. A lot of creators burn out after several years, like not unsuccessful creators, successful creators burn out after several years. And so creators now are getting smart about it. It's like, what does my exit look like as a creator? Like, am I building an asset over time that eventually I can sell my stake in it? The company could be acquired or something like that, where my energy is actually going into something, some intellectual property, some kind of asset that I'm building up over time, so that when I'm burned out in 5 years creating, I have that thing to fall back on. It's already built up in value. And so things are kind of changing on the creator model as well, as more creators are like realizing this, and they're big names who are doing this. So the Deadpool guy, for example, just keeps launching companies left and right using his brand to like, incredibly skyrocket sales very, very quickly. And then he has a, meaningful equity stake in the company. So when it exits, like he's probably made more money, I imagine, from his companies than from his movies. I don't know, but you'll have to ask Ryan Reynolds, but very big numbers. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree. I feel like everybody I watch on social media now is trying to launch some sort of product or business side next to it, whether it's like Mr. Beast with his
oh
chocolate
yeah, yeah,
or
candies, yeah.
yeah, I've seen like Cortex popping up a lot. I don't know if you've seen that one, which is another software company. I think a lot of people in the chat will still try to do this solo to begin with from like people that I've talked to. So that being said, I'm sure they're going to be using like a lot of AI technologies like you do to be able to handle all of that work. So I was wondering, and this links up with one of the questions in the chat. What are like the top tools and technologies you use
Mhm.
on a daily basis? I know you mentioned Cursor and Windsurf.
Yeah.
Maybe you could
Yeah.
explain a little bit about what those are for the non-technical audience, as well as any other tools you use.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, sure. So yeah, the initial MVP I built in Cursor AI, and I filmed it. So it's like a 7-part series going from like a scratch of paper where I had like the diagram, and then all the way through implementing it with users logging in, database, like all of these fun things.
And where can
I
we find that
what
recording? Where can
Oh,
people
so
find
it's
that
on my
recording?
YouTube. Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. I think the playlist is called Build SaaS with AI. And I still use Cursor AI to this day. It's my main coding tool, and I kind of use it. I don't use it to like just say implement a feature and then blindly accept all the changes. Like that doesn't fly anymore when you have more complexity and you don't want to introduce lots of bugs.
Mhm.
But yeah, the tools I use are lovable.dev to prototype the front end. So say I'm working on a new feature, like right now I am working on a new version of the calendar, and like the first thing I do is prototype what I want within Lovable. And so you technically can build like more than just the front end prototype in Lovable, but I really like to use it just for that. And then I move it over to Cursor, so I will literally like push the code to GitHub. It uses a CSS library called shadcn, which is what my application uses too. And then I'll start working in Cursor to actually implement the more complex logic, the backend, and things like that, not just the UI. So those are my two main AI tools that I would say. And that's what I would recommend for folks as well. There are more advanced coding assistants like Aider.chat is one I'll talk about often. I like that one as well. It tends to have higher quality results. Klein is another one I've heard really good things about, but haven't dabbled with as well. But I think for this audience, it's like thinking the MVP stage, really lovable.dev and Cursor AI are going to be your daily best friends. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Those are the two that we're like teaching in the course as well,
Oh
along
yeah.
with N8N, which I'm not sure
Oh
if
yeah.
I know you
Yeah.
have an integration with N8N for Potato, correct?
Yeah, so there are tutorials on how to use like Blotato within N8N. It's funny like seeing N8N explode because I used it back in like 2020 when it was just starting out, and it's come a really long way since then. So it's awesome to see it kind of get its due, get what it deserves. So
Awesome, awesome. And another question we have in the chat is
Mhm.
when you are coding with these AI tools and you come to like some serious
Mhm.
bug that you can't resolve, what do you do? Somebody's saying that they tried to make an iOS app using Cursor, but they've reached a point where they're just stuck about it and thinking about refactoring everything from the beginning.
So if it's a new feature you're adding, like you shouldn't have to hopefully refactor everything you've added. But like I would say first of all, if you're non-technical, like that's the point where you might want to get an hour of consulting help. That's what I honestly recommend to folks because like a senior developer taking a look at your existing code base and what you're trying to do in 1 hour can give you kind of just here's exactly what you do with Cursor. Like that's it. That's the playbook. Because I do notice a lot of non-technical folks can get stuck with that. Like that big feature and then Lovable or Cursor just gets stuck and you don't know what to do. And so that is the point where you might want to pay for again a couple hours of consulting, either if you know someone in your network or you could hire someone on Upwork for just a couple hours, like someone pretty senior, just to look at your code base, look at it, what feature you are trying to implement, and give you just a step-by-step architecture plan of what to do. So I think that's like that's how I would approach it, and that's how like that's the advice I give to a lot of other folks as well. So
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think sometimes you don't need like a whole co-founder, right? Just a little bit of consulting. And the other thing I would say from personal experience, I had like two people try to build the same app. One person finished it in 20 prompts on Lovable and one in like 80 prompts on Lovable. And I
hmm.
think it really comes down to like the first couple prompts that you give, being specific and writing out the structure of everything you want
Mm.
exactly the way you want. Sometimes like starting again from scratch, but making sure that first prompt is very specific can go a long, long way.
Yeah, and there's actually like startups emerging to solve that problem. For example, one I made a video on is called Code Guide Dev. Fortunately, they don't have a free plan, but like the concept of it is like to create your PRDs first, like all of the information about your tech stack, especially if you're non-technical. It's like, what do I use? Like you have no idea, right? And so it has like pre-built templates if you're building a React Native app. Like this is all the context that you want to give Cursor or whatever AI you're using, so it doesn't take you to some random path of using Swift or whatever else that you don't want to be using for your use case. And so I'm seeing kind of like an ecosystem emerge around AI coding assistants to help you like get the best possible head start, I guess, to make sure you're building the app in 20 prompts instead of 200. So
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I think a lot of people are considering, do I need a technical co-founder? Do I not need a technical co-founder? And one big piece of that is like it's just getting so much easier every day for non-technical people to do it, and like that's a good thing to keep in
mhm.
mind that these tools are only going to continue to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
And with all these new tools coming out, like
Mhm.
I mean, you're at the head of this, right? You're always like posting about this AI tool is out, this AI tool is coming out. For
Too
the
many.
average person, how often do you think they should be tuning in to be like, should I use this new AI tool that's out versus sticking to something they know? How often should people be refreshing themselves?
Only when they get really stuck. So I don't love like all the tools coming out and then everybody has FOMO. I share the tools hoping like maybe if it's useful to you in your specific context, but I hate the notion of like everybody kind of feeling FOMO. It's like, oh my gosh, a new tool, I gotta go try it. For the most part, you don't need to try it. Um, but when you get stuck with something, or like I use a bunch of SaaS tools even for my own business, and it's like, am I doing something manually? And the choice is between like building an automation to take care of it, but I have to maintain that automation as well, or the choice is to like find some tool that already does it and is very robust. That's the point when I'll go out there and like explore and try to find a new tool. So what I've noticed, for example, if people use bolt.new, which kind of blew up before Lovable, but a lot of people were getting stuck on bolt.new, and I was like, well, okay, you're getting stuck, why don't you try Lovable? And I've had a lot of people have success stories like, wow, when I tried it in Lovable, it was so much better. Keeping in mind, like they actually improved themselves, in the process, because when they started Bolt, they knew nothing. Um, and then after 3 months of playing with Bolt, they actually do know something. They may not recognize it. So they're gonna already be at a much better place to start a new project with Lovable. But that's the point when I recommend someone just like go out and explore new tools when you're like really feeling stuck or like a specific pain point where you're like, I need something for this. Either I'm going to build it myself or I'm going to pay for a tool that already does it and is robust.
I think that's like a great way to think about it. And yeah, that's like a lot of great questions on building with AI. So like, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a founder out here who went through all this, used Cursor, used Lovable. Now they have a product, but they have zero audience,
Hmm.
and they want to try to grow an audience. What recommendation? Like, what should I do? I'm building a product. Should I start posting TikToks? Granted, I'm not gonna team up with another social media influencer. How would you go about creating an audience again?
So if you were to create an audience again, yeah, it depends what the product is, right? So if your product exists on TikTok or Instagram, then I think it's a great place to be. If it's more like enterprisey, like you're selling to teams, then LinkedIn, Twitter is a really great place. If you're selling like individual coaches, kind of like the Facebook type of community, but skewed a little younger, you might like Threads. So it's more dependent on like where your audience actually exists. I think that's the number one thing. But certainly platforms like TikTok, Reels, Shorts gives you like the best organic reach. It's hard to just go viral on LinkedIn or Twitter from day one. It's not impossible, but it's just very hard. Whereas TikTok and Reels are a lot more generous in terms of giving you eyeballs. You have a lot more chances to actually go viral, and you're not penalized for trying. So on LinkedIn, if you post 5 times a day, like nobody is gonna see your post. LinkedIn is gonna shut you down. But on TikTok, it's okay to post 3 to 5 times a day. You're not penalized for it. And the beauty of that is you get data faster. So you can like try a lot of things in a fraction of the time because you get more at bats. You can try 5 times more things on TikTok than on LinkedIn. And so because of that, like again, like really fast feedback loop, you get better, you get data on what works, and it's just more likely you'll actually hit virality. And when it happens once, oh man, it's like lightning in a bottle. You'll be addicted to it, and you'll have a much higher chance of it happening again because all you have to do is do the same thing you did the first time. So
That's all. Do you remember when you hit your first viral video and what it was?
I do, yeah. It was definitely not something I expected. It was literally a video of just like YouTube channels where you could learn stuff. And I was having an argument with someone last week. They were like, that must just be luck. That must be timing. There's no way like it would go viral again. So I made the same video literally this was just a couple days ago. I just changed what the YouTube channels were, but I used the exact same title. I used the same like 10-second introduction, and then I just changed up the YouTube channels. And yeah, now it's going viral again on TikTok and Instagram Reels. So
Awesome. So it seems there's some sort of like formula to going viral. Have you figured out what that is?
I don't know. I don't think I know a formula, but like when you go viral, usually you can go viral again with something similar. So that's why I was when I say I'm in an argument, I was like, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna use the exact same title. I'm gonna like position my head the same way. I'm gonna say the first 10 seconds like introduction of why you should listen to this video. I'm just gonna change up the channels, and like they were like, oh, you're right. It went viral again.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, so
So
there's actually a lot of like consumer mobile apps where if you check their TikTok accounts, it's the same type of video again and again, and they're getting 30 million views, 60 million views. Cause like if it works once, like it's probably gonna work again for a similar audience. So
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And why do you think? I guess like from people I've talked to, they don't want to post the same type of video again and again because it's
hmm.
like, oh, my audience already looked at that before. What do you have to say to that?
I would say it depend like building a personal brand versus trying to promote a product are two different use cases. Yeah, if you're trying to build a personal brand, yeah, we don't want to hear the same exact thing like every single time, because that doesn't like showcase your expertise, right? Like you want to show that you have like different ideas, original ideas when you're building a personal brand. But when you're promoting a product, I mean, companies use the same ad. It's not like they just recreate the ad every single time. If you have a piece of creative or ad, that's a fancy way of saying ad. If you have a piece of creative that works, that has been proven with Facebook ads or whatever to have high ROI, companies for sure milk that. They just put money ad spend behind that one piece of creative. And so I just view it as a similar thing. If you found a viral format that's working really well to promote your product, you just do it again and again until it loses its effectiveness, which tends to happen like if you've like just totally saturated your market or a bunch of other competitors are copying you. So for example, one niche in TikTok that has spawned like many companies, profitable companies, is called Study Talk for students to like have different study tools, and they're all copying each other's formats. It's like someone's like getting ready to study, or they're like overwhelmed in class and they have their laptop open and they go to this website. But like that's getting like a little more saturated now because everybody's like copying each other's formats.
I see. I see. How do you go about? So you said you spend 2 days a week uh,
Mm-hmm.
filming content. Can you take us through the entire process from like how you come up
Yeah.
with the ideas, how your day looks like filming all the content, and how you go about publishing it all throughout the week?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do it on Saturdays and Sundays mostly because that's when like things are crowded, so I don't go anywhere. So Saturday morning is when I film my YouTube video, and so the last one I did was vibe coding Elden Ring. I don't know if you saw it, but it was super cool. And that one just came about because like a couple weeks ago, I fell for that Twitter joke where someone was like, "Oh, I vibe coded Elden Ring," and like it was small, it was on my phone. I really thought he like vibe coded with AI, but he just like posted a clip of Elden Ring. But anyway, I fell for it. I posted it, and then I got roasted for it. And I was like, wait a minute. I think though, I think this is possible. So it was just curiosity more than anything. So I just showed myself like adding like a boss to my little game that I'm trying to make it look like Elden Ring. I'm using Windsurf AI. It implemented some basic boss animations like swiping the sword, things like a behavior tree. So it's like rotates to me, the character, and then tries to follow me, some camera tilting. And I just vibe coded it. So I just like opened up Windsurf AI and just like started recording and filmed it. So let's say I take a tutorial like that. So it'll take some time to just film it, some time to edit it. So I use Adobe Premiere Pro. Mostly though, my YouTube videos are not very edited or polished. If you've watched them, I usually just cut out the things that are like ums or uhs, especially if you're vibe coding. It takes like 10 minutes sometimes for it to finish thinking. So I just cut like a lot of that downtime out. So I use Adobe Premiere Pro for that. The transcript based editing is a really nice feature. Posted on YouTube. Then I use Blotato to take it automatically pulls the YouTube video's transcript, and then I create a newsletter out of it. So then I send it to my audience newsletter, and then I also use it to create LinkedIn posts, Twitter posts, etc., like all the other social media platforms, as well as the TikTok video script. So that's like the first half of my day on Saturday. The second half is filming 10 TikToks. And for that, I usually just keep track of ideas throughout the week, just like interesting things I've seen or like conversations I've had from people. Or for Blotato, like I have office hours every week. So I'll take the meeting notes, also generated by AI, and that'll also give me ideas for like different topics I could talk about. And then for each one, I just film a TikTok video real quick. Usually takes me about 5 minutes to film it and then 10 minutes to edit it. So really, really short in terms of my process for video. And then Sunday morning is when I do my text-based posts. So my LinkedIn, I basically write an original LinkedIn post and then I use Blotato to repurpose it to Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and sometimes Instagram and Facebook. So I get a lot of content that way as well. On LinkedIn, I tend to share not just AI stuff, but stuff about my journey as a creator and like building Blotato in public. So it's a slightly different angle to my content. And then the second half of the day, I'll film another 10 TikToks. And some of them will be based on the stuff I just wrote. So if I wrote something on LinkedIn about Blotato, I'll also film a TikTok video about it. So yeah, that's pretty much my 2 days of content. And then I'm really tired, so I try to get it done as fast as I can by like 3 or 4 p.m. so I can go hiking and just like decompress for the rest of the day.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of work and goes into content creation. In general, what does your week look like? How many hours are you working a week? How much time do you have to rest doing all of this as a solo founder?
Yeah, I mean the 2 days of content are I would say the most intense actually, because it's just like I just want to knock it out and like not worry about it for the rest of the week. The rest of the week is actually a lot chiller. So I'll do like an hour of support requests usually for Blotato, and it's tough to keep it an hour. So I can tell when there's inefficiencies and like opportunities for automation and improvement when like my user base is growing and support requests are taking longer and longer. Like I view that as an opportunity. Okay, how can I get it back down to an hour, less than an hour? So I have different like AI automations. I have an agent for my support, and I'm like constantly training it, trying to improve my help docs, like improve its knowledge base and stuff. And then yeah, a lot of that time as well is just building features, fixing bugs, maintenance, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And from all the different social media channels that you're outputting to, do you find that any ones in particular have like better conversion rates of actually going to your platform and like purchasing Blotato?
That's tough. Like I thought certain platforms would be. Like I didn't think TikTok would be that good for it, to be completely honest with you, but it's been great so far. Like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, they've all been really great for me. Um, Long term though, I do want to invest in YouTube. I do like that the content is evergreen, because it's like you put that much like heart and soul into each piece of content, and then on a platform like LinkedIn or Twitter, it just disappears. Like it's just gone. If it didn't spike, it's just gone. TikTok and Reels are a little bit better. Like I went on vacation for a week during the winter, and I was just curious like how many views I'd still get on TikTok, and I still got like almost 1 million views, like without posting anything new. So that was like really reassuring for me in terms of they're actually doing a good job like pushing out my old content. But I think YouTube is the best in terms of long-term investment because it's evergreen. You could have a YouTube video blow up in 5 years, and especially as your entire brand grows. I also think YouTube, when you have long form like that, it just brings a lot more credibility. Like people will see my TikTok videos and it's only like 30 seconds. Do you really know what you're talking about in that 30? Like that's what people think. Like, are they really an expert? Then they see my YouTube, my long form newsletter, and it's like, oh yeah, this person actually knows what they're talking about. It's not just like a fake 30-second video clip on TikTok. So for me, like long term, I'm very bullish on YouTube, even though it's one of my smaller channels. So I'm only around like 34K on YouTube at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of content being evergreen, I have a friend who, when he was like 11 years old, posted some video about fixing a wire for his PS3, like sounding super terrible recording and everything, and it has like 700K views, and now it like, just keeps getting more and more views
That's
as
awesome.
the years go on. But yeah, and another question I wanted to ask is, so you've done both the VC route of launching a startup and doing it solo as well. Can you talk a little bit about like the experience of one versus the other and what you're enjoying more?
Yeah, I mean, they're both so different. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I do feel like with the investor route, yeah, you have investors to report to. It's very different. Like my current schedule, like I don't really have anyone to report to. I can just not do something and not have to explain why. It's very different, but they both have advantages. And like to be completely honest, I'm not closed off to the VC route. I think the beautiful thing about bootstrapping and being an influencer, so like I'm able to get users very quickly and like try to iterate faster towards product market fit. I feel like I still could raise money. Like if I wanted to right now be like, this is it. Like I see the opportunity. I want to go big. I feel like I still have that option. And
Mhm.
so I don't necessarily think it's like one is better or worse than the other, but like for where I am in my life, where I want like time freedom and flexibility, I definitely appreciate kind of like the bootstrapping path. It's a bit low pressure, to be honest, but at the same time, you get optionality. Like I could sell the company, I could replace myself, bring in an operator, I could liquidate maybe like 20% of the company, take some money off the table, and bring someone in to hire it, or go big and like raise a bunch of money for it after I've like really consolidated like the fundamentals, proven product market fit, and then raise money to scale it as fast as possible. I feel like I still have all of those options, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't feel like it's those options are closed off just because I'm bootstrapping. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And looking back on the past year, do you have any regrets, whether it's like wanting to raise with Potato or just when you were launching, anything you would have done differently? What
Yeah.
are your biggest learnings?
I wish I launched sooner. And I do wish I started features like video generation sooner. Because I love video stuff. I think it's like what you can create with AI video. It's just the beginning of what people can create. I saw one TikTok the other day that was like a mini series with AI video. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like this is just the beginning. But I was kind of hesitant to tackle a video because it's really hard technologically. Like it added a ton of complexity to the product. In some days I truly feel like I have two different products. There's like the video editing stuff for Faceless, and then all the other stuff for like personal branding and business branding. But like I wish I tackled it sooner, to be honest with you, because it's a personal interest and passion area of mine, and I wish I just kind of went for it. I also wish I wish I moved faster, launched faster, because I wasn't sure about like truly pursuing the idea. So I think I started building the initial version maybe early September, but I didn't really launch the first version until late October. And like looking back on that, it's like, dude, I could have launched the first version in like a couple days if I really wanted to. I was just kind of muddling in my mind about like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? Looking back, I just should have launched it as fast as possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the most common like thing
Yeah.
that I hear from everyone, that just should launch faster, get an MVP out there, and see how users like it.
And people think like, oh, my timeline's fast. And I'm like, no, I could like looking back, I could have launched it a lot faster if I just like
Yeah,
committed to it then instead of like waffling for a bit.
yeah, yeah. And then along this process, have you had any mentors or like communities that you've leaned on to help you along the way, or was it mostly just learning on your own and iterating?
A lot of it has been learning on my own, but in a way it's my own community that supports me, right? Like that's kind of the coolest part. Like when I first had the idea, I just made a TikTok video and then people gave me their feedback. And so that was like really cool to be able to have that experience. I don't really have mentors in the process. I'm not against it. It's just I don't feel the need for it. Like every day customers tell me what to fix. Like they tell me what to improve. And so there's no like question in my mind of what to do. It's like just listen to the customers, make them happy. I've listened to a lot of YC podcasts and a lot of entrepreneur podcasts, Hormozy podcasts, and like that's the heart of the advice. Like stay close to your customer. Don't delude yourself. Like, is the product actually helping them or not?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The course we taught last semester was basically 50% YC and 50% Hormozy.
Oh yeah, I love
On
both.
building
I
a
love
product.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, like, just I think there's a lot of people who want to do exactly what you're doing right now. Like that's the dream they want to get to. Any general advice that you have for them, like if they're just in the beginning stages, what would you say to them?
I I think I think tech people I've spoken to really dismiss the idea of working with an influencer. And influencers I've spoken to dismiss the value of a highly technical person who can build an amazing product. Like you kind of know what you know, and outside of that, you're like, whatever. You're like, you kind of dismiss it. But it's trust me, like to have both, to have like an incredible technical person or technical expertise building an amazing product and an influencer that has early distribution for you, like you're gonna succeed, like hands down. So I just wish more people would be more open to that. I know it's very tempting to be like, oh, I don't need that, or like or I don't want to give up equity, whatever. But like you're like basically guaranteed to succeed if you could just pair those two things together: amazing product person, amazing marketing slash influencer slash distribution, whatever form that is.
So you almost wouldn't recommend people to do what you did and try
Oh
to
no, yeah, don't do. Oh yeah, yeah, don't do what I'm doing. I'm just doing it just to like see how far I can get. But I'll be honest, like if I were to optimize, like min max this game in a way, I would partner with somebody. I would partner with a way better tech person than me if I was to min max it. But yeah, I'm kind of doing it solo just to kind of see how far I can get with AI and automation. But I'm sure there will come a point where it's like I cannot do this solo anymore. Not if I want to grow it in the way I want to grow it. Like I want to grow it to be bigger. So yeah, that's I don't recommend necessarily going solo. Yeah. And
yeah.
I don't think you have to give up equity either if that's like the thing people are hung up on. Like you can create profit share agreements, revenue share agreements with influencers for X amount of time. So it doesn't touch your equity or anything like that. But I would just encourage more people to be open to partnering with someone who's like truly complementary.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to put myself in like the shoes of the students. Let's say they go through the course, they finish, they built a product, it's launched. Maybe they put it out, a few different friends use it,
Yeah.
maybe post it on their LinkedIn, a couple of strangers use it. Now they want to team up with an influencer. Is that enough? Let's say, for example, they're building like a gym related app. Should they
Mhm.
start going and messaging random fitness influencers online, emailing them, seeing if they want to partner? Should they try to build some traction on their own first? How would you go
Mhm.
about
Yeah, and there are successful examples of this, like Cal AI, for example, bootstrap team. I don't know how many millions in revenue they're doing now, but it's only been a year. And like their whole thing is they partnered with influencers early on, like smaller influencers, and then those smaller influencers would introduce them to bigger influencers, and like they grew incredibly fast through that model. So first I would look at, is there an existing model? It's like, are there companies, if you're building a gym app, like you should know about Cal AI, you should know about how they grew their marketing strategy working with influencers so that you can learn to do something like that for yourself, or at least have it as an option to consider. So that would be the number one thing. Just look at what other companies in your space are doing. Like, where are the customers? What kind of content are they creating? And are they partnering with influencers? Are they partnering with big ones, small ones? Like, why? Just like really just try to understand that when you look at the existing landscape today. Because if it could work for them, like, why wouldn't it work for you? Right. And you will like inevitably come up with your own unique way of doing things. But like when you're just getting started, the easiest thing is to look at what's already working for other people. So
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great. I see we have a couple of questions coming in, and we're reaching the end, so I want to open it up to the audience for Q&A. Keith, can we get the slides back on just shortly before I'm gonna plug it our course that we have coming? If anybody's interested, we have a course that kind of starts next week. It's called Gen AI Bootcamp, where we teach you how to launch your product using Cursor and tools like Lovable in 5 weeks. So everybody who joins is gonna have their product launched by the end of it. You're gonna get a certificate in Gen AI development from UC Berkeley, and we're also gonna publish the top products to the websites and socials of Berkeley, and we'll have virtual build sessions as well, as where you can join on Gather, sit along each other on the weekends and work on hacking at your product. And for tonight, we have a 20% discount code. So if you do choose to register, you can go to this link here and type in Gen AI 20 in the ID code box for registration. And yeah, and now we're gonna go to audience Q&A. So I see a couple of questions, and feel free for everybody else to go ahead and pitch yours in as well. Well, one that we have from Anthony is,
yeah.
any advice for co-founding with your spouse?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Yeah, so my husband and I, we did our first company together. So we met at Berkeley Computer Science, and then we were just dating at the time that we did our first company. That's a really tough question because like without knowing anything about your dynamic, I probably wouldn't recommend it for most couples. Like it puts an intense amount of strain on your relationship, and unless your relationship is like solid, like you guys know how to communicate and argue without fighting, like debate something and like not take it personally when you guys are like disagreeing, because what you don't want is to like compromise good quality decisions to make the other person like feel better. I see that a lot in those kinds of relationships, like if you're co-founding with your spouse. um, I guess advice to if you're super committed to making it work, like just have like clearly defined kingdoms. Like so my husband and I, for our first startup, it's like I was doing the non-technical stuff and he was doing the technical stuff, and the overlap there would be, we'd come together and be like, what should we build for like from a product perspective? And I'd bring kind of like the customer's perspective, like what is marketing saying, what are we hearing from the market, and he'd bring the technical side, like this is impossible to build, or like this doesn't make sense this way. So there's just like separate kingdoms. Number two, like communication. It's so I know everybody says it. So for us, what worked, we play a game called Three Questions. We basically walk around and like I'll ask a question and he has to respond in exactly 3 sentences. The reason why is if you respond in just like no, it kind of signals that you're like disinterested or dismissive. Whereas if you ramble, it's like you might be overwhelming the other person. So the point of that communication exercise is to be able to just like clearly articulate your answer, but only 3 sentences. So I ask a question, he responds 3 sentences. He asks a question, I have to respond in exactly 3 sentences. And it's super cheesy, but like that's what's worked for us. Like that little communication game hack, whatever you want to call it, that works incredibly well for us. So whatever that is for you, like figure it out, because you don't want a situation where you're arguing and you're taking it personally, and then your personal relationship suffers, and then one of you feels the need to compromise in order to like preserve the relationship. You know what I mean? So but yeah, really tough question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Do you think overall it helped strengthen your relationship or
Yeah.
create more ripples?
I think overall it strengthened it, but like also keep in mind we had a positive outcome, right? And so it's hard to untangle like the outcome from the relationship, but like it is amazing if you can get it to work, right? Like he's like my husband is my best friend. He's like my partner in crime, and then in the future, so like part of my goal with Blotato is to like fund a gaming company that we will build, because like we're both super passionate gamers. Like that's our main hobby outside of tech stuff. That's why I was vibe coding Elden Ring, because like we just think that's cool. But like that's my like long-term goal with Potato, is to like fund our AAA gaming studio where we don't have to worry about like monetizing the games. We just want to build the games we actually want to build. But like we're like our each other's best friends, and we get to hang out with each other all the time. So like it is amazing if you can make it work. And just like it's not even the memories, it's just like looking back on everything we've built together, like the life we've built together is really amazing. But again, I don't think I could in good conscience recommend that to most couples, considering I have like no context on like how solid your relationship is, if you've worked together in the past or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's so awesome. I think that whole story is just so amazing, and I hope the gaming company works out at some point. We we have another question of how long did it take you to build Potato, and maybe you can tell us how long the MVP took, and maybe how long you've spent on it now
Yeah,
as a final
yeah, it's
product.
really funny. The MVP, it took longer, honestly, to edit the YouTube videos. Because I was like starting my channel then. I did not have like my editing flow down, but it took longer to edit the YouTube videos for that build SaaS with AI playlist than to actually like code the MVP. So in like pure hours, it was probably like less than 10 hours to do that initial MVP of just taking an article, running it through ChatGPT AI prompts, and then spitting out posts for the different platforms. It was probably less than 10 hours, which is why when I look back on it, it's like I should have just launched it. I was like fussing over, the YouTube, and I wanted the playlist to be good. And this was before like Lovable blew up. It was kind of before Cursor blew up too, because I was starting to play around with it in August. But yeah, again, not very long for the MVP. And the first version was terrible. Like I was really embarrassed by it. My biggest fear is that people would use this and be like, oh, I thought like she's an amazing AI educator. Like, shouldn't the app be like way better than this, more advanced as this, have more features? Like, that was my actual fear and insecurity at the time, which is why there was that delay in kind of like getting it out there. Which is why when I look back on it, I'm like, I should have just, launched it and just ripped off the band-aid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really awesome. And with the first 10-hour MVP that you launched, I asked if you got users. Did you get any paying users, and like even one at that level?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I did what's called an early adopter program. So I kind of just announced it in my newsletter, and then I said the lifetime price would be $20 per month, and you get my cell phone number. So, so yeah, people were willing to pay $20 per month.
That's awesome. That's a good way to promote it. We have another question. I think this one is more for the course that we're selling. It says, would you want to, if you're building iOS apps, is this something the course would support? We're focused mainly on web apps for the course.
Oh
I
yeah,
know Bolt.new is now supporting building
yeah.
mobile apps too,
So there's
but
actually a few, yeah. Bolt.new. I'll just mention them in case it's useful for this person. Bolt.new. Another one is called Roark.app, RORK.app, and it looks exactly like Lovable, but it's tailored to mobile apps. And then the third one that is coming out from another AI influencer is called Vibecode app. I think it's vibecodeapp.com. But if you search Twitter, TikTok, like you'll see that one as well. But yeah, I think what you learn in the course is very applicable to building any kind of app, to be honest, because like proper prompting and most importantly, like not getting discouraged and overwhelmed when you run into a bug, which is inevitable. Like that's the main thing you want. If you can just learn that, you will be fine. Like you will be able to build whatever you want. It might just take a little longer than you expect.
agreed. I think a lot of people just find coding scary, but if you just have like a couple hours where you learn the
Yeah.
fundamentals of how systems work, it can go a long way in trying to
Hmm.
code with AI. And we had a question earlier from Nick who said, looking at e-commerce, IG, TikTok, Pinterest, would you recommend certain tools or suite of tools for actual content creation, or do you recommend it for a campaign organization and marketing strategy, or both?
So looking at e-commerce and Instagram, TikTok in particular, yeah. So for e-commerce, it's probably a different set of tools than Blotato, because I do get users who are, for example, like promoting a product, a physical product, or some kind of T-shirt, things like this. I would look at AI tools that generate AI avatars that showcase your product, and there's like a whole class of them as well. So Blotato doesn't really like compete with that category. So things like arcads.ai, icon.me, Real Farm is another one. I just made a TikTok video on this as well. I just forget the other three that I mentioned. But if you look up those three, like they're highly tailored to realistic AI avatars showcasing your product. So your e-commerce mug or toy or whatever the product is. And like that's the type of videos that they make. A lot of agencies use it for running ads, but you can also use it for your organic content for Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. Thank you. And if there's no other questions in chat, we can go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Sabrina. This has been like my favorite stream by far. I
Oh,
learned so
cool.
much just from listening in and really appreciate you like sharing your limited time with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks everybody for joining.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Take care. Bye.